There are 8.5 million people who live in Israel. The country was founded in 1948. A number of things brought about the founding of the State of Israel. Some of these I've already tangentially spoken of, especially as it relates to the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and World War I. Here are a couple of other things. In the 19th century, in Europe, a philosophy called Zionism began to take hold amongst Jews. Zionism is the idea that Jews everywhere constitute one nation whose protection requires a Jewish state centered on Zion, which is the Holy Land centered on Jerusalem. This was largely the result of the persecution of European Jews, especially in Eastern Europe and Russia. These people wanted to have a place that they could call their own country and thereby protect themselves. Another thing that helped bring it about was in 1917, the British issued what was known as the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration was the first time that a major country, the British, declared that there should be a Jewish state in the Middle East. Now, there were geopolitics involved in this. This was 1917, which was a turning point for World War I. The British were attempting to find a way to open up another front against the Ottomans in order to cause the war in Europe to collapse. By issuing the Balfour Declaration, the idea was that they were hoping the Jews in the Middle East would also revolt against the Ottomans. After World War II, which ends in 1945, the United Nations, which had just been formed itself, was given the job of dividing up this area. This map shows more or less what they came up with: the proposed Arab state, the proposed Jewish state, and then Jerusalem, which was going to be an international zone. That means that it was going to be controlled and operated by an international force, probably headed by the British. However, Jerusalem has importance to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All three of the great monotheistic religions from the Middle East all see Jerusalem as a holy area. How much land are we talking about? Well, Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip combined have 10,952 square miles. San Bernardino County in California has 20,105 miles, and Los Angeles, Orange, and San Diego counties combined have 10,227 square miles. So we're not talking about a lot of area. The people who live there live in very close proximity to each other. Now we're going to take a look at the Arab-Israeli conflicts and wars, because these are the things that changed the geography of the area. When it became obvious that that map I just showed you was going to be the map of the area, the people who lived in that area broke into a civil war. And from 1947 through 1948, a war ensued. In 1948, the Israelis declared independence, and it became an independent country. There was another conflict in 1956, another conflict in 1967, and then another one in 1973. Of course, there have been many more conflicts since then. However, these are the major conflicts that changed the geography of the area, which is, as a geographer, my concern. Let's take a look at these three maps. This map here, indicated by the red arrow, is the pre-conflict conception of the partition, the splitting up of the area. So this is before the wars began. Then, in 1948, when the Israelis declare independence, the surrounding Arab countries attack. And you can see that the Arab countries managed to occupy much of the area. However, the Israelis had a counteroffensive, and in that counteroffensive, they took back almost all of the land that was controlled by the Arabs. Israel then annexed much of the territory that they took over. And I mean they constitutionally annexed it, which means that under no circumstances do they negotiate for the land that they constitutionally annexed. It would be the equivalent in some ways of the United States and Mexico arguing over who owns Arizona. If you look here, Israel constitutionally annexed the Golan Heights. This is land that they took from Syria during the last two of those wars, the 1967 and 1973 wars, which means since they have constitutionally annexed it, they have no real plans ever to give that back to Syria. Syria, of course, does not like that. But the Israelis did not annex the Gaza Strip, which you can see here, and the West Bank, which you can see there. The remnants of these wars can be seen if you walk around in that area. This is the Dung Gate, which of course means what it sounds like it means. In the old times, when the animals were in there, you would bring the dung out through a particular gate in the wall that surrounds Old Town Jerusalem. And you can see, obviously, there was conflict there. The people who live and lived in Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip, who are Arabs, are the people who are called the Palestinians. So one of three things happened to the Palestinians. When the Israelis took over all of that land, and the land that they annexed, they were either A, forcibly moved out to surrounding Arab countries or to the West Bank of the Gaza Strip. They left in some cases of their own accord. There were wars going on. That's a political push factor. And in some cases, they were offered Israeli citizenship. And in fact, there are Israeli Arabs who are in the Israeli Knesset. So they're allowed to vote in Israeli elections and participate in Israeli society. The Palestinians who live in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip have their own elected government. It's called the Palestinian Authority, or the PA. There are two main political players. Although there are many Palestinian political parties, these are the two main political parties, Hamas and Fatah.